Welcome to the GAB Talks by the Independent Press Award. I'm your hostess, Gabby Olczak. To participate in the 2024 Book Awards competition, please visit independentpressaward.com and NewYorkCityBigBookAward.com. So excited about today. Thank you for joining us. We'll be speaking with Michael C. Higgins, author of Exploring Wine Regions, the Central Coast of California. It's the winner of the 2024 Independent Press Award in 3 categories: coffee table book, gift books, and travel. The third in a visually spectacular book series. Exploring Wine Regions incorporates travel, wine education, culinary experiences, and in-depth profiles of sommeliers, winemakers, chefs, and more. For the past 20 years, Michael has been the publisher of Flying Adventures magazine, a lifestyle travel magazine for food and wine lovers who own and travel on private airplanes. Wow. Michael is an author, photojournalist, private pilot, food enthusiast, and wine expert, a true Renaissance man. He has a BA in commercial art, an MBA, and a PhD in business administration. He joins us today from Pasadena, California. Michael, congratulations and welcome to the GAB Talks.
Well, thank you so much. There's a lot of very nice words.
Well, they're all true. They're all true. So,
well, it's nice to be with you.
Thank you. So let's dive right into it. Exploring Wine Regions, Argentina, which you in the book series in 2017. It was followed by France Bordeaux, which incidentally was the winner of the 2020 New York City Big Book Award for Best Travel Book.
Yes.
And of course, the one that we're meeting on today, the Central Coast of California, all of which won numerous awards, all of these editions. Michael, what inspired you to launch the book series?
Wow. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
I can tell that. Yes. What else?
You know, I was in the magazine business like you talked about for 20 years. And I got tired of deadlines because that's what happens with magazines. You got to get the next one out and the next one out.
Yeah.
So you know what? I gave my magazine business to my staff and I decided to go to Argentina to find out why the Malbec is so extraordinarily good.
And what'd you find out?
Well, I was there for a month and a half.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, I'll bring back a nice little story for the magazine to give to them. Okay. But it was so big because, I was there for so long. So that evolved into doing a book and a book series. Mm-hmm. And that's really how it started.
Wow.
I went back again and again. I mean, it took me 4 years to do the Argentina book.
I understand, let's say 4 years to do the Argentina book. And I understand that the Central California book actually took 2 years, 29 weeks over the span of 2 years. So what's your process like? How do you do that?
Well, okay. So Bordeaux, the second book, was also 4 years.
Wow.
And California was actually 3 years. I thought, I live in California. I've been to these places, can get it done so much easier. But I realized I really worked hard. I worked hard to get it done in 3 years. Incredible.
Really?
And then I put on my work even harder. And my next book is on Mexico, which comes out later this year.
I'm excited
and I did
for
that in 1 year.
Okay.
Wow.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
Did you live in Mexico?
Well, I went to Mexico 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
And each time, how long did you spend doing your research?
Every time I went, it was 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't go as long. See, with Argentina and France, they're so far away. I went for like a month or 2 months.
Makes sense. Right. You're in California, Mexico.
California, I would go for a couple of days and come home sometimes or a week. Right. But with Mexico, it's a little farther, but it's still close. So I did 2-week increments and I did 3 wine regions.
Wow, in Mexico. So, there's a reason, Michael. We can all see the book. Hold up the book for us so our viewers can see how beautiful it is.
Here's California. This is how thick it is. It's
over 800 photographs, folks. Over 800 photographs that Michael took. There's a reason Exploring Wine Regions has won so many awards and received so many accolades. It's unique. It's gorgeous. It's an in-depth insider's guide to wine, food, travel, filled with, as I mentioned, over 800 spectacular and mouth-watering photographs. Show us some of those photographs, Michael.
Well, the one I marked here which is
Michelin star restaurants, exquisite lodgings. Michael, have you personally experienced every place that you photographed and been to?
every place in this book I went to, every photograph is mine. I wrote from my experience of being there, everything. And in fact, if I go to a place and there's something they have and I don't experience it, I don't put it in the book because I have to experience it before I tell my readers this is good. Because
I think that's what's unique about the book. I think a lot of travel books and food books and wine books don't do that, but you've really done it all.
That's why it takes a long time, because I really have to go there, and I only do one winery a day because I want to spend time with the owner and the winemaker, and in their vineyards and their winery, and do the tastings and whatever other experiences. Because I want these wineries not just to have great wine, but they have to have great tourism. There needs to be something other than step up to a bar and taste their wines.
Right. And you have
that's important.
Beautiful lodging available. You have restaurants, some Michelin star restaurants. I mean, really, really beautiful places. So how do you determine the next destination? How do you come up with which place you're going to cover next?
Wow. Well, you know how Argentina happened.
So remind us. I've heard, but I don't think our listeners and viewers know this.
Well, I was just telling you how I went there to find out why Malbec was so good.
That's why. Okay.
Turn that into a book. And so that's why book number 1 happened. One of the great things that happened is I created a great relationship with Baker and Taylor, who is our distributor, and they've been our distributor from the very beginning. And in those beginning conversations after Argentina, we discussed what would be the best destinations to do, to answer your question.
Okay.
And the answer really was California and Bordeaux. These were important. And the enthusiastic Michael and me said, well, I'll do them both at the same time. So after I got the straitjacket off of me, I focused on Bordeaux. And that's how Bordeaux happened for number 2. Then I came to California, number 3. And initially I was thinking I was going to do all of California, which meant Baja California, which is still California, different country.
Right.
And that's where their number 1 wine region is, Valle de Guadalupe. So that was sort of part of the beginnings until I decided I'm going to do the Central Coast. Everybody knows about Napa and Sonoma. And the Central Coast is in the shadow of their success. And I thought this would be better to have a book to show people how good the Central Coast is. The wines are just as great. The food is amazing. The area is spectacularly beautiful. It's all along the ocean. It's just a great place. So I had to take Mexico out because they're not in the Central Coast of California.
Understand.
And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a Mexico book next.
And we're so grateful.
And then I discovered 2 other great wine regions in Mexico, which is Guanajuato and Querétaro. And those are now the 3 books. The book is done. It's been edited. We're in the final stages before going to printing. It comes out October 1st, I think, October, whatever the first Tuesday is in October. That's when that comes out.
Okay.
Along the way, a couple of years ago, I hear from Greece. And Greece.
So Greece actually thought you out.
Right. And they wanted me to do the next book. And I said, well, that sounds good. And we sort of did a tasting and a food and wine pairing. I got a Greek restaurant here to give me foods with wines, and we paired Zoom. It was really good. But they kept wanting me to come. And I said, I need to focus on getting California done. And then I need to focus on getting Mexico done. Well, we stayed in touch, and they kept saying, just come for just a little trip, and we need a test trip.
Just a little trip. Yeah.
Last year, I said, fine, I'll come. I'm almost done with Mexico. I'll go. So I spent 2 weeks in Greece, and it's extraordinary.
Oh, lucky you.
It's extraordinary. I thought it was going to be a little book, but it's not going to be a little book. It's so extensive. So I'm going to be back in Greece in May.
Okay.
And then I'll be again in September and October during the harvest time.
Oh, my gosh.
And then again in 25.
Now, Michael, do they provide the itinerary for you? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot of work if you want to put an itinerary together yourself.
Of course.
I've been doing a month and I don't know the people. And this is what's so much better.
Or the language, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's right. Although I was really surprised that really almost everybody in Greece speaks
English. Yes.
So what happens is I have them put the itinerary together. That's either a tourism organization, a winery organization, somebody who is sort of embracing all of this because they know the people. I give them the parameters. They put together the itinerary. And I don't really worry about the first itinerary because I'm going to get my feet wet.
Of course.
And then once my feet are wet, then I can talk to them how the second one and the third one, that we can really focus in on what's going to make it a great book.
So you're targeting 2026 for the Greek publication?
Yeah, this is 24 and 25. Yes, exactly. 26. Right.
Fantastic. Oh,
so that would be 3 years. So maybe it's 3 years. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's circle back to Central Coast of California. You spoke a lot about the terroir. Yes. But let's put it in some novice terminology. In your opinion, from a wine growing vantage point, what's ideal about the geography of the Central Coast that makes the wine so good?
Should we define terroir first?
Yes, please do.
And what's really good about doing Bordeaux before California is that this is how the French do it. And myself and others can be very unhappy when we see a French bottle of wine because they don't tell you what's inside. In the New World, which is United States and California, we want to know it's Cabernet Sauvignon, it's Pinot Noir, it's Chardonnay, it's Sauvignon Blanc, whatever it is, we want to know. But that's not what they do in Bordeaux. They have their winery and they have the vineyards around that winery based on the terroir that they're in. They have the optimum grapes and also French regulations of what they can plant. Mm-hmm. And that's how they make their wine. So you have to know the winery and you have to know their vineyards that are around their winery because that's how it works. So knowing terroir is so important. Back here to California, when I go out to dinner with people, and I'm really glad that people like to have me go out to dinner with them.
Oh, I would love to.
I know how to pick wine.
Yeah.
I can look at a wine list and not know any of the wineries, but I look at where it's grown.
That was my next question for you. How can we do that? So with the first thing to look for is where it's grown.
So the first thing is what do you really want to drink? Are you looking for white or red or light or heavy or whatever?
That's
and then
the first thing.
And then you look at the wine list and you try to figure out, okay, here's the ones that look good. Where were the grapes grown? Because, Pinot Noir likes cold. And if this is coming from a hot region, which, people plant Pinot Noir in hot regions, it's not going to be as good as if you got it from a colder region. Same thing. Let's take the opposite with Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet wants the sun. It needs sun. It needs long growing time. And if you plant that in a cooler region, you're going to have a wine that tastes really green because it never really fully ripened. And that's really key. And when you think about going to a restaurant, you don't have to know the wine list. You just have to know where the grapes were grown, and you can maximize the opportunity of a great wine.
What if you don't know that Pinot Noir, for example, likes to be grown in a particular climate?
I don't know. They should buy my book.
I did. Yes.
Especially California, because as you know, in my book, I went overboard on Pinot Noir so that people can find the best wines based on what they want to drink. Yeah. And then there's another thing you asked me about the terroir of the Central Coast.
Yes.
It's unique. And the reason is 100 million years ago, probably give or take a few years. Okay. The Pacific Plate and the Atlantic Plate merged. So the North American Plate. I'm sorry, the North American Plate, which was Canada, United States, Mexico. That's what was above ground. And deep, deep in the ocean was the Pacific Plate that came out of the ocean and hit the North American Plate. And by the way, where it hit is still alive 100 million years later. That is the San Andreas fault line. If people know the San Andreas for the earthquakes, because it's still moving. But that little sliver that's on the Central Coast is the only part that's above water. So what it did is it bring this deep ocean, the soil and the sediments from all of the sea life comes up and is now above land on the Central Coast. And by the way, that strip starts at San Francisco and it moves its way down and includes Baja California. So, so Valle de Guadalupe in Mexico has that same great soil.
And, folks who are listening, watching, in the back of this gorgeous book, there is also a glossary of wine definitions, which is really a fantastic resource.
That is helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is helpful because if you want to be educated, you need to understand the terms before you proceed. Right. Especially if you want to start going to restaurants, choosing wine yourself, you really have to understand what it's all about. So Michael, you're a publisher, an author, a pilot, a photographer, and a wine expert. You've done it all. You've pruned grapes, you've picked grapes, you've judged wines. When did this fascination with everything wine begin?
It's a funny little story because you know what? I grew up with my father buying that cheap jug wine. I hate wine. He taught me to hate wine.
Which one? The really big one?
The big gallon, with the little circle thing, You know
what? I grew up with the same.
You with that too? Oh my gosh! So it wasn't until I was an adult, and
you grew up in California.
I did. I'm a native of Southern California,
and you had a jug of wine. Okay, continue.
I know. And someone eventually showed me a great bottle of wine, and I thought, "Oh my God, wine actually does taste good."
Wow! How long did it take to go from the jug to the good bottle?
I don't know. It must have been in my 30s, maybe.
Wow.
Somewhere and I wish I remember who it was because I don't remember the circumstances. But the bigger answer to your question is with the magazine. So my first editor-in-chief, and she was the best, and she knew travel, she knew aviation, she knew lifestyle, she knew wine. She handled everything as an editor-in-chief should. And then she decided she wanted to be a teacher, and so I lost her. Oh. So my second editor-in-chief, he didn't drink.
Oh, gosh.
But he was so good, but he didn't drink. So I needed to jump in and do all that research. And that's when I started hanging out with winemakers and chefs and the whole food and wine experience and going to wine regions, because every issue of the magazine had food and wine destinations in it, and we had to keep doing it. And so I did all the research, and that's how I got to know this so well.
Oh, wow. So where did you start with your research? What was your first step? Did you visit vineyards? Did you meet with sommeliers? What did you do?
Well, my editor-in-chief would have laid out the next issue of the magazine.
Okay.
And wherever that wine region or wine story was for that, I needed to go do it. Okay. I don't remember what it was, but whatever it was that he needed, I went and did it. So I was really following his organization of each issue, next after next, which it really didn't matter because you know what? Wine regions are so good. You know what's a funny thing that I say?
What?
The wine grapes, are the smartest species in the world.
Smartest species in the world.
And you know why?
Why?
They live in the most beautiful places on the planet.
They do.
And they really do. I mean,
Argentina, Bordeaux,
Tuscany,
Central Coast of California.
They're beautiful.
So Michael, you mentioned Mexico is next, followed by Greece. And there are 11 editions. What are some additions that we have to look forward to in the far future? What are you planning?
You mean after Greece?
Yes, you did say Tuscany. I heard that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do Tuscany though, because I think Tuscany is like Napa. Everybody
it's too obvious. Everyone knows about that.
So
yeah,
I have two places in Italy that I want to do.
Okay.
One, and probably the one I really want to do is the heel. You know, Italy looks like a boot.
I do know the heel. Very familiar.
The heel. So it's so undiscovered. And yet
that's what I love. If you tap into undiscovered regions, that's the best part.
And I think the other one is Sicily. You know, the grapevines are going up onto the vineyards, and that's special too. And maybe when I go there, I'll do research on both places and there'll be two different books. I don't know how I'm going to do it. You never know. Someone may call me and say, do our next book here.
Gosh. Well,
you know. Because when they're willing to help, it really makes a difference.
By providing the itinerary, of course.
Exactly.
That's got to make a huge difference in your research.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's not just a huge difference in my time, but it makes a difference because they know the people. They can get me into the places that I really need to cover and tell my readers about.
Absolutely. You are having so much fun, and I have to admit, I'm very jealous.
I am having fun.
What's been the most rewarding aspects of this project, Michael?
Well, I don't do these books for the money. I do it for the lifestyle.
Well, you can tell.
I do it for the food and the wine and the travel and the people and the cultures. To me, that is like I'm living life really great. And while I'm living life, I'm capturing it and sharing it with the world so other people can go live life too in amazing ways.
Well, we thank you. What's the most unforgettable thing you've experienced in this journey?
Most unforgettable. Wow.
Just one thing that you just really can't get out of your mind that you've seen or experienced.
God, I love everything. What really stands out? My gosh. Well, terroir stands out because I used to be one of those people that didn't like the French not telling us. So my eyes are really open.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. I love riding horses through vineyards. Oh, it's so good. And one of the greatest experiences was in Argentina when I rode horses into the Andes Mountains and not on trails, just into the mountains. It was just the most amazing thing.
Well, that's pretty unforgettable.
It's so unforgettable. Wow.
Is Malbec your favorite wine?
I love Malbec. It's so good. But in my wine cellar, I probably have more Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
Cabernet from Bordeaux and Cabernet from California, primarily.
Okay, that's
two great places. But you know what? I still love Pinot Noir. I love Pinot Noir so much.
Me too. Pinot Noir and Malbec are my two favorites. Which region surprised you the most, Michael?
Wow, surprised me the most. Okay. So, there's the parallel around the world where wine grapes grow best. And when you take the northern hemisphere, it circles around the world, which includes California and Bordeaux and Italy and Greece and all of that. And it includes Valle de Guadalupe and Baja. However, when you go to Guanajuato and Querétaro, they're outside that region. They're kind of a long ways outside that region. And you should not be able to produce good grapes there. But something is remarkable there. And this is maybe the answer to your question.
Yes, it is.
The elevation. So Querétaro and Guanajuato are right next to each other. They're the name of the states. And there's wine regions in both. And it's north of Mexico City in the mountains. So like maybe 2 or 3 hours drive north of Mexico City. And because the elevation is at 6,500 feet as the base going up, it's super high elevation. I mean, we think of Denver, being high elevation at 5,000, but this is 6,500 feet. So what happens there is that elevation, because, Mexico could be really hot. So the elevation cools it off. But at the same time, it's so much closer to the sun. So it's getting so much intensity from the sun. And part of that is it makes the skins, because, that affects the skins. The skins get thicker. The skins are where the color comes from, where the tannins come from. It's really amazing. And then it's also kind of semi-desert there. So at night, it cools off. Because one thing that's really important for wine grades are hot days and cold nights. They need a big range so they can grow and sleep and grow and sleep. We call it the diurnal effect. And I was so surprised. And it's a funny story how I found it, because I was in Valle de Guadalupe and I get a text message from this friend of mine who is a winemaker in Argentina, who I met because of Argentina. And she's at a really top level winery and makes great wine. She's very talented. And she says, Michael, I am in Mexico and I'm making wine in Mexico. And I said, wow. I am too. I'm in Valle de Guadalupe. Where are you? I'll come see you.
Yeah.
She said, I'm not there. She says, I'm in Guanajuato. And I responded and says, what is a Guanajuato? And so the reason why I went to Guanajuato was because of her, because I know she's incredibly talented. She wouldn't leave this top level winery making incredible wines if she didn't have a serious opportunity in Guanajuato.
Sure.
And she'd have to believe she could make the same high quality wines. That's why she did it. And I was surprised when I was there. I found a lot of other Argentine winemakers there. And here's why.
Really?
Argentina is high elevation and it's desert. They know about growing grapes and making wine in that environment. There's no ocean influence because they're up against the Andes in Mendoza. So that's the same story in Mexico.
Wow.
And so they're coming there because it's a great opportunity, and they speak the same language because it's Spanish. And it makes it really easy for them to transition and go there. And Argentina's had a lot of problems with their economy. So they see Mexico as a much more capitalistic society where they can actually succeed. And that's why she's there. That's why, I must have met 4 or 5 other Argentines there.
There.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that was a big shock. That's
a big shock. Yeah. It's a surprise that it works there, a surprise that it's related to Argentina and the winemakers. It was incredible.
Really looking forward to seeing that book. So, Michael, show us some photographs in the book, in the edition, The Central Coast.
Well, Central Coast.
So gorgeous.
This is one of my favorite pictures.
Wow. Tell us about that.
This is in San Luis Obispo, and this is the entrance to the Edna Valley. And the Edna Valley is very cold. In fact, it's the coldest wine region in all of California. So it's really good for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And I think it more resembles Burgundy, being a cold area in France for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. This is the fog rolling over the hills, over the vineyards.
Just beautiful.
It's incredible. The wine there is amazing. You asked about Michelin star restaurants. Paso Robles, which is in the Central Coast, it's come a long ways. In fact, if people have been there, well, they still wouldn't recognize it because it's changing so rapidly. And there's now 2 Michelin star restaurants. Here's one. Here's one. If I can come in, you can see just
oh my gosh,
how incredible the food is.
And Michael, you take all of these photographs.
I do. Every one of them.
Wow.
I also ate that food too. It was really good.
You're so lucky. I'm so jealous. So
good.
Each book is filled with a plethora of information, wineries, restaurants, lodging, attractions, as well as a glossary that we just showed our listeners and our watchers. You provide everything we need to really educate ourselves about wine and the particular region that you're focusing on. You also have extensive profiles of chefs and sommeliers and of wineries, and it's just amazing. So I understand you also organize itineraries and trips.
I do. You're right.
I know I'm right because I researched things.
So before we pass up what you just said, every winery has this section in the upper right-hand corner that has their address, their phone number, their email, their website, their days that they're open.
You really can't make it much easier for us.
And then I also show them the wines, so you can see the wines that they have, and you can see how I define, see where it says Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. That's like, and here's something that's really valuable. So like you talked about how beautiful these books are, and they're big.
Yes, they are big.
When you travel to a destination, you may not want to take the book with you because, first of all, you don't want to hurt your book. It's too nice. But secondly, it's a lot of weight and you're traveling.
Right. Especially if we just want to focus on a carry-on.
Exactly. Right. Which is a good idea. Yes. So we have a travel edition. It's a digital travel edition.
Oh, wow.
That Apple and Amazon sell. And in that travel edition, when you get to those pages with the wineries, what I was just talking about, the addresses and so forth, if you click on the address on that digital version, it opens up maps and it gives you directions to get to the winery.
Oh, gosh.
You click on the phone number and you're calling them. You click on the website, you're now, on their website. It's so interactive and so easy. And it's actually, for travel purposes, it's better than the physical book because it really helps you get done what you need to get done.
Right. It's condensed. It gives us the information that we really need. And you also organize trips to wineries?
Yes. So I've done a lot of trips to Argentina.
Okay.
And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And so the Bordeaux book came out in 2020. And that, of course, was COVID.
Right.
So we completely stopped all of our travel. And we're just getting ready to organize doing it again. And so our first trip is going to be to Bordeaux because we haven't done it. And there's so many people that want to go. And people can go to our website. By the way, it's exploringwineregions.com.
That was my next question. Thank you.
And up in the corner, it says something about contact us. People can sign up to get on the list so that when we have a travel plan, they'll be invited.
Oh, that's great.
So if that's the way to get in on getting invited.
That's fantastic. So, Michael, just remind our readers, lastly, and our listeners and viewers, where we can purchase one or all of the editions of Exploring Wine Regions and find out more about your itineraries, your organized trips, and all the other things that you have to offer.
Well, with Baker and Taylor as our distributor, my God, the books are everywhere. I mean, they're in the obvious ones like Barnes and Noble and Amazon.
Wow.
Bookstores, big bookstores, little bookstores. They're in wine shops and they're in odd places. All of a sudden I find out it's for sale on the website on Target and on Walmart. I'm thinking,
really?
You're kidding me? Why is it there? But you don't want to argue.
Why not?
It's more books sold, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So that's what they can get them. I mean, and the best thing to do is to support your local bookstore, because they kind of need help, staying alive. So that's important. If somebody wants an autographed version of the book, which I will do, for your listeners, go to my website because all the books are there. They can buy the book there, and there's a place where you can put notes and say, please put this in the boat, in the book, Dear Gabby, it's such a pleasure, whatever it is they want me to say, I'd be happy to do, or I'll be creative and come up with it,
That's great. And Michael, remind us again, what is the website?
exploringwineregions.com. So it's just like the book, Exploring Wine Regions, and then it's .com.
Wonderful. Michael, it has been so much fun. Such an education. I'm so excited to explore some new wine regions and some new wines. I'm going to stray from my Pinot Noir and Malbec.
All right. Have fun with the book. It's, thank you for having me on here today. This was really great.
It was so much fun. And we're really looking forward to Mexico, which you said will be published in 2024, October this year. And Greece, hopefully sometime in 2026. That'll be exciting. And then we can't wait to see what other regions you're going to explore.
As we get closer, I'll know, and I will tell you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. This is really great.
Yeah, this is great.
Have a great day. We look forward to meeting with you sometime again. This is your host, Gabby Olczak of the GAB Talks. Join us next podcast when we meet with Dr. Josh McConkey, author of Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Until next time, keep on reading.